So, Dr. Warren, now that we understand this DNA structure and everything is in language and telling us what to do, that language helps the body to function properly. And now we're starting to get a glimpse of how things work. And if the language isn't correct, then we don't see. What I learned from you was when Darwin was around, he knew about the anatomy of the eye, but he didn't know anything about the biochemistry of seeing. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and your point is a good one. As I've said many times before, I think and many others have said this as well, if Charles Darwin was an honest scientist, and I think if he knew what we know today, that he wouldn't have published on the origin of species.
Yeah.
Now that's conjecture, but this is cool.
Yeah.
So this is a side view of an eye, and you can see the various structures of the eye here. And what Darwin did is he used this eye and he compared it to other animals that in evolutionary biology we would call simpler animals, that had simpler forms of this eye. And he was well aware of the complexity of the eye. And he even brought it up in his book as a problem. But he suggested that, look, we have simple to complex eyes.
Oh.
The complex eyes evolved from the simple ones. It makes beautiful sense.
Yeah.
The problem is he did not know about the biochemistry of the eye. Now, this shows the biochemistry that I teach my students, and you can see a number of different proteins. I've whittled this down to 5 steps, which is, depending on which biochemistry text you read, something in the neighborhood of 18 to maybe 30 different steps. But the point here is to show you the complexity of systems like visual systems, and there are literally thousands of these within the human body. This is just one of examples all over the place. So what you can see here is, in science jargon, a system of 5 steps. These steps consist of molecules, proteins that interact with one another in sequence. They have to interact with each other in the proper order in order for us to see. We now know that at the end of this, you got to do something to this protein over here. You have to stop the sodium movement through that protein or we don't get to see. That's when you say, what is vision? You say, well, that's light hitting your retina. Well, not really, because the light that hits the retina has got to initiate a sequence of steps, each requiring different proteins interacting with each other in order for us to see. Now, if you come along and harm or damage by whatever, genetic mutation or whatever, you damage one of these steps, you don't get an organism that sees less. You get blindness. And so in a Darwinian model, what you've got to do is you've got to construct, in a Darwinian model, a simpler form that would then evolve into a more complex form. The problem here is all of these things have to be in place for it to happen the first time. So next layer of design, I would say.
Yeah, and so really, again, as we learn more in the science realm, we are assured that our faith, we get to know that our faith is rational. Somebody created this.
Right.
It didn't just happen.
It's very difficult to make the case that this happened by natural selection.
Ah, that's great. Thanks.